right, how's everybody doing today? And today is a good day. Today is a new day, and welcome to TimberTalk. I am your host, American Lumberjack. Things are changing a little bit because I like to have things fresh and anew. I didn't even put that one thing up. Look at me failing at making sure I got everything done right. But it is okay. It is all right because I can fix that toot sweet post haste. And I'm going to do it right now live so I don't forget about it later. But I hope everybody is doing well today and blessed and highly favored. There's a lot of things going on in this world that are not good and not great. We're going to cover a couple of those things, and we're going to move forward and move in truth, because that's the biggest thing that we fail to realize in this country is truth. And when you don't have truth, you don't have anything. Let's adjust that right quick. And we're going to fit the screen, and we're going to bring that way down. There we go. That's pretty. All right. Fantastic. But yes, if you do not have truth, you do not have anything. And there's a lot of people that say a lot of things that don't have truth in any manner, shape, or form. So that's what I want to bring to everybody on this podcast. I want to bring you truth. I don't want to bring you a story. I don't want to bring you a good time. I don't want to bring you smiles or laughs. I want to bring you the truth. Like, Jesus is coming back. Are you prepared? Are you living your life the way he would call you to live your life? Or are you rolling the dice and gambling away your chips? Speaking of chips, our first story is about foreign chips. And with these foreign chips, you have Taiwan standing up for themselves, so to speak. So America wants too many of the world's chips, basically. And they want to have it made on the U.S. soil. And a lot of people don't understand that. For the most part, Trump wants everything American, because if everything's American, America succeeds, right? Well, Taiwan doesn't believe so. Taiwan just told Washington, not going to happen. Let's make a deal, but not the deal that you want, Trump. Basically, is what they're getting at. So the U.S. Commerce Security floated the idea that 50% of the chips bound for America should be produced right here. Now, Taiwan, with the CHIPS Act under Joseph Robinette Biden and his administration, and with the deals that Trump made in the beginning of 2025, he has had a lot of success at getting factories here, having Taiwanese nationals come here to make chips and build up these factories so Americans can learn how to actually make these chips. But the problem is he wants more. It's not enough that we have 26% around about of the world's chip manufacturing here now. That he wants more. Previous to the Biden administration, we only had like 11%. Now Trump wants 50% made right here in the good USA. But Taiwan has pushed back pretty hard, and their vice premier said that the proposal wasn't even a thought. That it's not even something that is currently on the table to negotiate, and that if you hear Trump saying anything about that, he's lying. Now, I can say for a fact that Trump probably has put a bad taste in the mouths of Taiwan with, blocking their president from landing here as a layover to go to where he needed to go because he was doing a deal with China. So overall, you're going to have to end up watching and seeing what actually happens later on with all of this as things change and as things go down. But they're not happy. So because Taiwan holds an enormous leverage, around 70% of the total exports of semiconductors related to these particular chips, most of the advanced nodes are produced there. And Trump has been working tirelessly to get those made here. So the U.S. is also investigating under Section 232 the national security risk posed by semiconductors being imported, possibly raising steep tariffs. So overall, it is always going to be a risk at having another country bring things into your country, and vice versa. For those countries, there's a risk. And we have seen many changes in the United States under the Trump administration because of national security. There's a lot of things that are going down and going on with Russian spies, Chinese spies. Most of the Chinese spies have been in our agricultural fields and our military, and even Americans are selling secrets back to other nations from our military standpoint. So national security is of the utmost importance with this. But this is a bold move, and I think if Trump keeps going on the path that he's on, he might actually end up winning this out. Now, a lot of people, their eyes glaze over when you're talking about semiconductors and chips and all this other stuff. What do they do? Well, if you have a cell phone, chips are in it. Computers, chips are in it. Motherboards, chips are in it. GPUs, which are gaming processing units, chips are in it. Just about everything that you use that has technology has some shape, form, or fashion of a chip in it. And the semiconductors are really pushed more towards, your GPUs and stuff like that, the higher end technology, but your cars use them. You got a new car past the year 2010, it's going to have every bit of computerized chip and semiconductors and nodes and all this other stuff baked into it. So you can't escape it. You're not going to be able to get away from it no matter how much you want to. It's there. It's here to stay. But in reality, you can't just snap your fingers and relocate 25 to really, I would say even more than that, because we have I think 26% is what I looked up. And you're not gonna relocate another 25% from someone that has 75%. So that person that has 75% now has 50%. It's just not gonna work, and that's what Trump is trying to do. Taiwan has they have the top fabricators, and they've been building this up over years. So they've been dealing with China up their neck, telling them what they can and can't do, and now they have America telling them, "Hey, we're going to take majority of your country's major contribution to the world," and it's just not going to happen. Taiwan has a strategic value and leverage in the fact that they are the world's mass producers of these ships. So if you're driving a car, like I said earlier, they use it. We need these things. It's not something that you're just going to get away with unless you go live off grid. Then like my friend Gerard, you go live off grid next to the Mexico border. That's the only way you're going to get away from it. Otherwise, you are stuck with technology. I mean, some of you are watching on your phones. You're stuck with technology. Some of you are watching on your TVs. You're stuck with that technology, so it's not going to go anywhere. But the U.S. already imposes 20% reciprocal tariffs on Taiwanese goods, and the chips are exempt so far. But I see with Trump's behavior in the past, this being pushed to a level of where he's going to up that a little bit in order to force their hand to come over here. And really, he had it in good if he had just played the game right from the get-go instead of trying to appease China as well to get majority of that over here, because China was really hounding Taiwan. They were doing war exercise next to Taiwan. They were shooting rockets over Taiwan. Trump could have been like, hey, we see that this craziness is going on. Why don't you come move everything over here and we'll protect you? It would have been great. But this overreach undermines diplomacy and sovereignty, really and truly. And I do feel that Trump is getting a little too big for his britches in some areas. And a lot of conservative talking heads or commentators don't speak ill of Trump very often because I think they're afraid to. They're afraid to catch flack. But here I want to speak truth. And we're going to speak truth as much as possible as the information comes, because some of the information we receive is not true. But other than that, that's the whole shebang on the chips thing. But I would keep an eye out for this because most people don't look at this as something that matters. It does. You want your next iPhone 18 to be cheap, relatively cheap, not $1,500 to $1,700. You want your next Samsung to be cheap, or your Google to be cheap. You're going to have to appease these people because those semiconductors and chips are in those phones. And that's why the price is a little bit higher, because of the tariffs and the transportation and stuff like that, the logistics of it. But just something to keep an eye out for. If you see Trump doing stupid stuff on this front, you need to call him out and call him out loud and proud. Our next story is the Oregon Trail. Now, this story is kind of funny, but it does have national implications because I'll get into it. I don't feel great about this story. It's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. So picture this right here. You tie on your boots, you get your shoes tied up, and you're about to go hit the trails. And you want to go hiking on the famed Continental Divide Trail. And this trail is the divide between America and Mexico. And you think you're about to go do this in the Southern Trail terminus, and now you find out that you can't unless you are a U.S. citizen. And you have to be cleared by a background check. And with a permit from the Army. Yeah. So basically, welcome to the new National Defense Area, because this whole zone for this hiking area has now been made into a militarized zone. This area previously was wrought with a lot of people trafficking drugs, trafficking children, trafficking women, and going in and out of our country. And now they don't get to do that. So the first 1.1 miles of the Continental Divide Trail, or the CDT for short, is at its southern terminus. It now falls under the new jurisdiction of the National Defense Area, or the New Mexico National Defense Area. And Trump's not playing around with this national security. We know that the government shut down, but ICE is still working. And anything in relation to ICE is still working. This kind of bodes back to how Trump was taking funding from other departments and halting other departments' training so he could funnel that money into ICE directly. ICE is still working. They're not going to stop throughout this entirety of the shutdown. So we see this as a good thing, right? Because a lot of people were worried about the national or the government shutdown if people would just start flooding in again. Trump said, nah, we're going to make a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. But only U.S. citizens may apply for the access of this 1.1 mile stretch of land to hike. Anybody outside of that is blocked entirely. And you might get deported. Yeah. So that means that if some world leader comes over and wants to hike that trail, they can't. No. Unless, maybe they're escorted by Trump himself. But if you're not an American citizen, you're not doing it. But even U.S. citizens have to go through this stringent background check. And I can hear the left right now. We need background checks on guns, not hiking trails. Yeah. Bro, guns don't kill people. People kill people. And if you allow people to slip across the border unchecked, guess what happens? They kill people. They rape them and kill them. And we've been seeing a lot of this. So I'm here for this. So it's a good thing. I do have some things later on in the show that I'm going to talk about that are not necessarily good that Trump's doing, but this is a good thing. It has to be security first. The border is not a hobby spot overall. So we have to be cognizant of that and realize that anybody can cross this area. This is one of those areas where it's not insurpassable. And a lot of people I've heard in the past say really dumb things saying, oh, well, there's not a border across the whole United States. I'm like, are you, what? Like, you think they're going to put like a 3,500 mile fence up? Yeah, they're blocking the border, right? No, there's some places that can't be passed. There's some places between Mexico and the United States that planes won't even fly over unless they're flying extremely high. Like small aircraft can't fly over because it's turbulent from the winds that are going through there, and it would cause the planes or the helicopters to crash. So these people are definitely not hiking these areas, and if they do, they're probably dumb because they're going to get lost or eaten by a wild animal. But overall, we're talking about the land directly adjacent to a high security border zone, which I told you guys in the past about the militarized zone of what was it called? I can't remember the name of it. I should have refreshed myself on it, but it was the easement between America and Mexico, and it's named after our president. But overall, that areas not too far from there. And this limits access to the United States. And if you notice, if you go look at the CBP, which is the Customs Border Patrol numbers, you ain't seeing crossings like you used to. It's not happening. And we've had several months of zero crossings. And this is a good thing. And the fact that it's continuing through the government shutdown is an even better thing. So, 2, citizenship isn't about, exclusion. It's about trust. If you're a citizen of the United States of America, we can trust you. But on the flip side, I do kind of agree that this might be an overreach because the government can't really tell you where you can and can't go in the United States, ultimately, according to the Constitution. But I see this going one or two ways in the future. Either it continues on the good path that it's on, or some douche-noggle will corrupt it later on, which is more than likely going to happen. We can no longer play games with what's going on in this country. We can't. There's been too many women, especially women, that have lost, and they don't even talk about the men. There's been just as many men being killed by these illegals as women. But the fact that these women are being tormented and traumatized before they're killed, it's crazy. And it's still happening today. It's not like Trump got in office and it all stopped. These people are still doing this because we haven't gotten rid of all of these people yet. So it's just something to think about and to look at, really and truly. But our next story is where things start to turn in a different manner. This is energy, blue light special. Now, you've heard the rumors. Now it's real. The energy department just yanked $7.56 billion in clean energy funding from projects in mostly blue states. Now, this was authorized by Trump. And I know someone's going to be like, oh, he's just being a petty, petulant, impetuous child, and he's doing this on purpose just to blue states. That's not the case. That's not the case. And it's not because, again, they're blue states or Democratic states. There's a reason behind it. So according to the data, solely to the data, not to someone's feelings or opinion pieces, but according solely to the data, those projects were not economically viable for or they were misaligned with the real U.S. energy needs. So sticking all of these new windows in buildings that were costing millions and millions of dollars, and these buildings weren't even being occupied or whatnot, or they were just being built for future projects and then just sitting there for 10 years. We know that happens according to the Rand Paul Festivus report. They're pulling things from that. And people are losing their minds on it. And this is a real wake-up call. If you can pull almost $8 billion from non-essential programs that weren't actually going to benefit what they originally wrote the laws and the bills for, that got them the money in the first place, you got to call a spade in this sense. It's not kosher because that's taxpayer money. And it's not just a single individual state taxpayer money. This is federal taxpayer money going to these individual states. Now, the DOE canceled 321 awards tied to the 223 projects across 16 states. These included hydrogen hubs, grid modifications, which most people would think grid modifications would be good, or modernization, should I say. They would think that would be good, but that's not exactly what they were doing. And they were adding battery storage, EV infrastructure storage, and carbon capture hubs and stuff like this. And those all sound really good and well, but at the same time, they're not. They're not. So many of the cuts are in heavily Democrat states, like I stated. New York had 41 projects cut. Colorado had 34 projects cut. Illinois had 33 projects cut. Massachusetts had 31. Oregon, Connecticut, Maryland, Minnesota, Washington, they all had cuts. And the left right now is up in arms. You don't care about the environment. You're killing everybody. Yeah. Most of these projects, the money wasn't going where it was actually supposed to go. That's why the projects weren't actually completed. You know, when Biden wrote that bill under his administration that gave out this money in the first place to do these things. Yeah. Those things weren't even started yet. The money was just sitting there. So what are we talking about? The fact that they were funded under the Biden era and they weren't started at all is crazy to me, because usually it takes about 6 months to a year to start a program, and they've had 2.5 years to have started these programs. What are we doing? So the Department of Energy says the cancellations are because many of the projects weren't viable or aligned with the U.S. energy realities. So some of these things were actually going to cause more problems than good, essentially. So the critics, especially being the Democrats, are screaming retribution and claiming that these cuts punish states that oppose the current administration. We knew that to be the case because these people are crazy. They think anything that is against them is wrong. So they're going to blame instantaneously the other side. But realistically, we can't keep throwing money at failing ideas. Like if you take 2 years to create something and it doesn't come to fruition, there's a problem. So I like to look on Kickstarter all the time, and I see so many things get fully funded and then some, like 250% funding, where they only ask for like $100,000 and they get $250,000, and the projects never go anywhere. It kind of reminds me of that trucking company getting $700 million out of the Rand Paul Festivus report, and the trucking company never began. Like it never came to fruition. I would love to have 300,000 of that to put towards my business, but you gave $700 million of taxpayer money to this company and nothing happened. It's gone. It's absolutely gone. And that's what was happening with this blue energy deal crap that they had going, because it wasn't really in red states. We always talk about red states needing help from blue states, but why weren't we doing these same things in predominantly red states? Because that would actually alleviate the blue states from having to help the red states, right? Right? Because it would make things better, right? Wrong, because we know that clean energy is not green energy. When I say green, I mean money. It costs a lot of money, and the benefits of clean energy aren't there yet. I'm not saying that it will never be there, but it's not there yet. And them using the tactic of this is punishment is a cheap distraction. It really is. So many of these projects canceled in blue states is a problem, but at the same time, these programs are not benefiting the climate like they say it would, because the simple fact that you building these battery stations, you're having to tear down and destroy areas and move more areas from one area to another and deforestate just to be able to build those areas. They took a big bite out of something that wasn't going to really render the results that they wanted. So energy needs stability, and that has to come first, and not having a grid that's stable, which we know California has one of the most unstable grids in the country, followed by New York, one of the most unstable grids in the country, then Minnesota, because these people have constant blackouts. Hell, they put out and issue these warnings every year in California during summer. Don't run your water at this time. Don't run your AC at this time. I've never suffered that here on the East Coast. Not one time. Not one time. I've always been able to run my AC and my lights and I could turn on every appliance in my house right now in peak summer. Now I'm going to pay for it, but there's not going to be any blackouts or brownouts. The only blackouts or brownouts we have is if it's just a hurricane or a horrible storm. But this does send overall a message of accountability. And this is something we need to be very accountable. A lot of people are not accountable for what really matters. What really matters is not spending taxpayers' money on stupid crap. Plain and simple. I'm not making this up. This is factual. Are you tired of your money going to things that you didn't want it to go for? Yes. I don't live in Illinois or California or Oregon. I live in North Carolina. I don't want pay coming out of my pocket to help that state for their own indiscretions when they could fix their problem. California brags all the time. We're the richest state in the United States and we got the world's third largest economy or fourth largest economy, then fix your grid. Yeah, fix your grid. If you fix your grid, you won't need to worry about anything else. You won't need to worry about shipping water from Colorado to California. I bet a lot of people didn't know that. A lot of your water comes from other states. You wouldn't need to do that. Fix your grid. Problem solved. No more brownouts or blackouts. Stop letting your forests go underburned. So like every year you should be doing underbrush burning. Why? Because that prevents forest fires. Do that, California, and maybe things will get better and you won't suck. Realistically, I mean, I'm not making this up at all. Now, for the part that I said I was going to get on Trump's head about. Separation or reunification. They gave this man hell. Who built the cages? Trump built the cages. Joe, you built the cages. Trump built the cages. The back and forth about the cages, I know you guys remember this, but it really was Obama that built the cages, and Trump used them because they used them. I mean, it's like, hey, if you're using them, I'm using them. And they weren't used in the manner that everybody makes it out to be, but at the same time, there was cages. However, and I did not change the slide. My apologies. Nope, that's the wrong one. That is the wrong one. Wait a minute. Did I misname this? I think I did. One moment, please. Let me fix that for you guys. I apologize. I missed. I thought I put these all in the correct order. I did not. Let me get the right slide up here. Boo doo boo boo doo doo doo. And where are you at? Maybe I didn't put it in here at all. I don't think I did. That's my bad. I apologize about that. So this particular segment is called Reunification. Let me give one more once over, make sure I don't have it somewhere. Yeah, I don't have it. I have it, but I don't have it. And I'm not even going to worry about it. Essentially, all sides of the story reports that Trump's administration has revived the practice of separating immigrant parents from their children as a part of a wider overall push to deport millions and to deter asylum seekers. While I get it, I don't get it. You went through utter hell dealing with this, and you blame Joe Biden, and you blame them, and you blame that, and all this other stuff. What are you doing? I don't get it. I really don't. It's like you were working in the right direction, Trump. Now you're working in the opposite direction, and I get it. I get it. I understand where you're leaning to, but I wouldn't do that. That's not wise in my opinion. I don't think it's wise at all. But under this revived policy, children are being declared unaccompanied minors and placed into shelter or foster care, which I'm vehemently against. We just found out about those children that were placed into those homes and those 65,000 missed calls because there was only one employee that never showed up for work that was to answer all 65,000 calls, and how 123 of these kids had been recovered and how 27 of them were killed outside of the 123 that they recovered. And some of the ones that they recovered were raped and molested and trafficked and drugged, overdosed. What are we doing, Trump? You're putting these kids back in these same situations unless you have some plan to vet these people in foster care. This is wrong. Since the start of Trump's second term, over 2,300 minors, some of them infants, have been logged into the detention. And the tens of thousands of people, including children, have been shuffled within the U.S. under chaotic conditions. I am not for this, for the simple fact that you've been finding all of these kids. You came in and you found 300,000 plus kids. You've been finding these kids that were with these people that Biden placed them with. And I don't know if I mentioned, but 400 of those people that were supposed to be seeing over those kids, 400 of them were put in prison. And I think the number has gone up substantially since then. So what are you doing? You're putting these kids back in the same conditions, bro. You really are. And you must enforce the law. I get it. Illegal immigration can't go unignored, or can't go ignored rather. And you have to you have to use harsh measures sometimes. And I get that. But this is not harsh. This is cruel and unusual. One, if these people don't want to leave, I get it. But taking their kids and using their kids as a bargaining chip to force them to leave, that's not the move. I'm not going to say it's dictatorish, because you are still working in the confines of the law. But I don't think it's cool that you're doing this overall. I really don't. And I'm giving pure opinion here. I don't see this going down in history as a smart move. I see this as a dumb move. And this is more than immigration. It's really like a power trip or a power play to punish families ultimately. Granted, I know they did something illegal. I know it. But a criminal stealing a piece of candy and you cutting his head off for that is a little over the top. In this case, taking someone's kid because these people don't want to leave is a little over the top. It's mainly over the top because you're not just taking them and detaining them until the parent gets the heck out and you give the kid back to them. You're giving them to foster families, which we know the foster system in America is trash. And ultimately, if these people do decide to leave, they get their kids back immediately. That's the plan. At least that's how it's supposed to work out. But I ain't with it. Not one bit. Will not be with it, and never will be okay with it. Let's see here. I think this one right here. Yes, this is the next story. I do have this one. And this one comes with some pretty explosive videos. So, everyone knows that the Secretary of War, a.k.a. Pete Hegseth, and Trump administration have been going hard on the war on drugs. And I can say personally, in my state, we have seen a major decrease in drug traffic. Now, North Carolina used to be a hub for people to hide out in, especially towards the mountains. Not so much now. Like it's changed substantially since this has been going on. But yeah, they just blew up another boat. I have both videos. I will show you here. This is, I believe, the first one. Check that out. This is the first boat. Those bags there, and there's no sound to this. Those bags there are all drugs. All of them are drugs. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Watch it. Oh, let me move this. My bad. Did you see it? It went kablooey. And now it's on fire. It went kablooey and now on fire. This is a beautiful thing to see. Why? Because, one, people that think that this is an international issue because these people are coming from Venezuela to America, it's not. Those people were deemed terrorists, and terrorists have no country, right? There's no specific country. Anybody can be a terrorist from anywhere. So terrorists don't fall under the protections of a country. Also, the drug cartels don't either. This is probably one of the better things that Trump has done. It is deemed these people terrorists. It was brilliant. Absolutely, positively brilliant. Why? Because now we can get a real handle on this. And you would think that they would learn their lesson, but they didn't. Because they did it again. Check this video out.
4 people killed in the U.S.'s latest lethal strike on a narco-trafficking vessel off the coast of Venezuela. Secretary of War Hegseth announced that he directed the strike on President Trump's orders. He said the Pentagon's intelligence without a doubt confirmed the vessel was trafficking narcotics and the people on board were narco-terrorists. Hegseth also said they were operating on a known narco-trafficking transit route. President Trump said the boat was loaded with enough drugs to kill 25,000 to 50,000 people. White House Press Secretary Leavitt on Friday saying these strikes are in line with Trump's plans to end the U.S. drug epidemic.
As the White House has said many times, the president has directed these actions, these strikes against Venezuelan drug cartels and these boats, consistent with his responsibility to protect the United States interests abroad and in furtherance of the U.S. national security and foreign policy interests. This is pursuant to his constitutional authority as commander-in-chief and the chief executive to conduct foreign relations.
Hegseth says no U.S. forces were harmed in the operation, and these strikes will continue until the attacks on the American people are over.
Absolutely, positively, yes. As they should continue until you stop shipping drugs here. And most people are like, well, how would he know how much drugs were up there if he blew it up? Well, my friend, have you been paying attention to all the drugs that the Coast Guard has been confiscating? Tons and tons and tons of drugs. Not a little bit, not a few pounds or ounces, but enough to wipe out the eastern seaboard where everybody overdoses. And they've been doing this often. And they record what type of vessel these boats are, and they record the amount that they find on these boats. And these people that are shipping these drugs ain't too dumb. They know that they can only carry so much, so they're making a educated guess based off of previous strikes where the Coast Guard has shut these things down. And the Coast Guard does not get, I do not care what anybody says, the Coast Guard does not get enough of a go-ahead nod. The Coast Guard has been working tirelessly to shut this crap down. They go right to the edge of the international water, and they're shutting these people down left and right. Off the coast of Florida, shutting them down left and right. Off the coast of North Carolina, South Carolina, shutting these people down left and right, collecting these drugs. Going into the Gulf, shutting these people down left and right. And no one's saying anything about it. No one's thanking the Coast Guard at all. But this is how they know what the numbers are, or get a decent idea. So the Pentagon released this video strike on the vessel. The first one I showed was the one from September 2nd. This one I showed was just from this past week. And they've been doing this, and notice that Venezuela's not really saying much of anything at all. Like at all. So the U.S. administration claims 4 people were killed and labels those people as narco-terrorists. Sounds like a Trump word, but I digress. I'll leave that alone. It's one of the latest of 4 strikes. So they've been doing since September 2nd. They've been dropping these boats off left and right. And as soon as they cross the waters, entire waters, it's boom time. Like they're not playing with them. They radio to the vessels, telling them to turn around, tell them to stop. They don't listen. These people keep pushing forward. And then they're lit up like a Christmas tree. I don't celebrate Christmas personally, but I do like the lights. They're pretty. So the administration says that the vessel was in international waters and part of a known smuggling transit corridor, meaning that the path that they were on was a known area for the transporting of narcotics. So if they cross into our waters, we can hit them. And if they cross from their waters and into international waters, it's fair game. International waters basically is like, hey, it's like Fight Club. You don't talk about Fight Club, but we do things in Fight Club, but you ain't supposed to know about it. Well, now the United States says, look how pretty we made these people splash all over the water. And if you look at the video one more time, just the first part of the video, we can see all the white smoke. Watch this.
4 people killed in the U.S.'s latest lethal strike on a narco trafficking vessel.
Now watch the white smoke.
Off the coast of Venezuela. Secretary of War Hegseth.
So you see the white smoke, and they show later, and they show more of the plume. It turns white. That ain't supposed to turn white, like at all. Period. It should, stay gray and splashy from the water, and then turn to black bellowing smoke from the boat being burned. I live on the coast, so I've seen plenty of boats catch on fire. It tends to be the course that it's black smoke coming up, not white smoke. So we know what was on those boats. But let's be fair. Critics are going to raise their several legitimate flags. Due process and presumption of innocence. That's the first one. Let's be realistic. If someone walks in your house, takes your life, the life of a family member, are you going to be screaming due process? They're in the act of the crime. Are you going to scream due process? There's no need for lethal force. These people are bringing copious amounts of drugs into our country that are taking lives. Not just your friends and families, but my friends and families. Drugs don't know political lines. Drugs don't know color. Drugs don't know gender. Drugs just know how to make people feel good, and then they die. That's pretty much it. If you go straight to lethal force, these people are complaining that who confirms the target is guilty. But war powers and constitutional authority is what says these people are guilty. We're telling them not to do these things. We're asking them to turn around. We're telling them to stop. They're not heeding the warning, so we light them up as they should be lit up. No more problems, right? No more people dying from drugs. And you can get your family member into rehab, and then you won't have people getting their necks laid on by knees like George Floyd. And you won't have that issue because he's not slump and high on 16 different drugs in his system. But I digress on that. Ultimately, you just got to be smarter than that, man. And to be smarter than that, you have to use the government correctly and not do dumb things because the government's not playing right now, because we actually have a commander-in-chief that's worth a dang. And in him being worth a dang, it seems like we also have a Supreme Court that is worth a dang. So this is a conjoining of two separate stories, but show the Supreme Court actually trying to be constitutional. So two Supreme Court cases, one about your home and the other about your right to defend it. 2A. Both ask the same question. Does the Constitution still mean what it says? And that is something that I've thought about heavily. Does the Constitution even matter anymore? Because we've seen Biden violate it. And in some cases, Trump allegedly has violated it. So does it mean what it still says? Or is it just a optional opinion piece when the government feels broke or scared? That's a real question. So from Michigan's situation, this case from Michigan, their property seizures, and Hawaii is talking about gun bans, and the fight for your rights is hitting the nation's highest courts finally. And we need clarity because a lot of these people can't read, so they need someone else to tell them the bedtime story so they can go to sleep and feel good about themselves. But we need clarity on some of these things because a lot of these people don't understand it. They really don't. So starting with Michigan, a homeowner's property was auctioned off for unpaid taxes. How are you going to auction off someone's property for unpaid taxes? The way I understand the Constitution and the way it's written by definition, not by the way I believe, is once I pay something off, I don't owe on it anymore. The Constitution also constitutes that the government can't own property. So, how are you taking someone's property, their home, after they paid it off for unpaid taxes? So the county sold it for $76,000. They kept every penny and gave the family nothing, even though the house itself was worth almost $200,000. So they took it, sold it for almost $130,000 less, realistically $123,000 less, or $24,000 less if you want to do the math. But they sold it, and they kept the profits. Very strange. Very strange. So the counties call it a revenue recovery because you didn't pay those taxes. So we're going to recover all of it. I personally call it legalized theft, because if this weren't a thing, it wouldn't have made its way to the highest court in the land. And I'm almost positive that this county in Michigan is going to be sued. And I can't wait to follow up on this to tell you guys how bad they got sued when it happens. But the county argues that if we have to return profits, local governments will go broke. Why are you taking things that aren't yours? Newsflash, that's not your neighbor's problem. That's the Constitution doesn't come with a budget or exceptions. It says what it says. And you're out here doing dirt. This isn't about compassion. It's about control. You pay your taxes your whole life and you slip up once or twice and they take your home. That is tyranny to a T. So if these people in this county rose up against their local mayor and rode on them with guns, it would be valid. It would be constitutional. Why? Because you stole someone's land and property and gave it away, essentially gave it away. Like what? What are we talking about? Now, on to Hawaii, the gun you carry, the freedom they fear, basically. That's what it really gets down to. So when you jump over to the Hawaii story, or court case rather, you can say anything you want to say about gun control and all this other stuff. But a lot of people are wondering how this goes in with this particular case. You can't carry your gun on private property unless the owner explicitly says yes. That's what this court case is about. So the Supreme Court is hearing the Wolford versus Lopez case, which is a major case in testing whether the government can flip the Second Amendment into permission slips, which they already have. Have you ever heard of a gun permit? Have you? I have. I've had them because they told me I couldn't purchase one without it. And I would need a bill of sale if I purchased one privately. Where does it say that in the Constitution? It says, shall not be infringed. You making any law, rule, regulation, policy, procedure, whatever, mandate, is an infringement. So under Hawaii's rule, everywhere becomes a sensitive place unless the state says otherwise. Hawaii is extremely authoritarian with their government. Just so you know, it's very authoritarian. And coincidentally, it's ran by Japanese people and Jews. Go figure. But they're very, very big on sensitive places and government overreach. They do it from their beaches to their bars to parking lots, even public sidewalks near private businesses. And this is why this case is going to hit the Supreme Court harder than Barry Bonds. It seems that the logic follows suit with what happened in Michigan in their case. They call it regulation, but it is really a disguised restriction and like them altering it to benefit only them and hurt the people themselves. They say it's about safety, but safety without liberty is just a padded cell, you know, where you bounce off the walls and then you finally get bored of that and you don't want to bounce off the walls anymore and you want to get out of that padded cell. You don't fix crime by muzzling law-abiding citizens. That's factual. That's not how you fix it. You fix it by holding the actual criminals accountable, not letting them out the next day or a few hours later like they do in New York or Illinois or Oregon or Colorado. They literally let their people go after committing crimes. For example, North Carolina kind of did that. I don't know how we're a red state in almost every facet, but have a blue governor, but I digress. But that just happened with Mr. Brown, if you could call the creature of night that, and the guy that stabbed Miss Irna Kurtutska several times and then said, I got the white bee after that. So that wasn't racially motivated at all. And then he wanted to say the government put something in his head and that's why he did it as an excuse to get out. Well, I think it's Watkins or Wilkins, the judge, signed off to have him not put in jail, but to go to a mental institution to see if he was competent to stand trial. 14-time criminal arrested and jailed and let go 14 times, stabs and kills someone, and you want to know if they're competent? That's not holding the criminal accountable. That's letting crime go rampant and you punishing law-abiding citizens. Especially, so I've had this thought for a very, very long time. Follow me here. Maybe some of you out here watching understand this as well. Why is it that cops have quotas and state troopers have quotas that they got to meet at the end of the month or the beginning of the month, and that's why they pull more people at the last 3 days of the month and the first 3 days of the next month? Why do they pull people like that? Why do they respond faster to a traffic call where someone's speeding or drove into a ditch or did a donut in the middle of the road or driving too slow, but they're not very fast at responding to domestic violence calls? They're not very fast at responding to actual things of need. When they say serve and protect, they're not talking about you. They're talking about serving and protecting the municipality, the mayor. Let there be a purge type situation that breaks out. Those cops are going to first respond to the mayor and protect the mayor, and then they'll make a game plan to go protect the community, because it's about protecting the community, not about protecting you. But they will look at me and say, oh, you're a sovereign citizen. Call me what you want. I like when people call me names. But what I do know is the truth. You're not out for my benefit. You're out for the benefit of the county. And when cops figure this out, if they're just and righteous individual, they will stop being a cop. Most of them switch over to being sheriffs. But there's a pattern here with this that no one wants to admit. Whether it's your property or your pistol, the state always finds a way to say, we know better than you. We know better than you. They take your home, keep your profit, and call it fairness. They take your weapon, throw you in jail, and said that it's the gun that killed people, not you. And if you're a real career criminal, they'll let you out real quick, fast, in a hurry. I'm grown. I've been grown for quite some time. I don't need a babysitter. And I got a mama already. God rest my father's soul. I had a father as well. I don't need a new daddy. I don't need a new mama. I'm grown. I can take care of myself and I can take care of mine. I don't need your help or your overreach or your oversight. I don't need to be having someone breathe over my shoulder, and nor do I need to be micromanaged. I know what I'm doing. And that's what you're doing to these people. You're trying to take their guns. You're trying to take their homes, all at the behest of not paying you something that they shouldn't even be paying. I should be able to walk on the sidewalk with my pistol, rifle, whatever, cannon if I want to. And you shouldn't be able to tell me what I can and can't do with that. What are we doing? You're letting criminals go. That's not fair. What are we doing? Both cases boil down to the same truth ultimately, though. When the government overreaches, the individual bleeds. And the government is going to keep overreaching until they take everything they can. It's the people who lose the land, the equity, the means to defend themselves, while bureaucracy and bureaucrats and politicians stay untouchable. You recall when COVID happened, right? Politicians were out at baseball games, at movies, at Met galas, at gatherings, at the president's house, and all this other weird stuff, while we had to stay home, couldn't go see our dying relatives. We couldn't have more than 5 or 10 people in our house or whatever the rule was. We had to wear muzzles while they didn't have to wear muzzles. Your neighbors were calling the cops on you. That's government overreach. That's the government saying you can't police yourself, so we need to know better for you. No. And if more people would start telling the government no, it wouldn't happen anymore. But you're too afraid to tell the government no. Maybe you should stop being afraid and start knowing truth. Our next story, protective status, Venezuela. Now, there's already been one story about Venezuela. Well, mainly the drug cartels coming out of Venezuela, but this one right here tips the scale a little bit. So they just flipped the script on temporary protection temporary TPS, temporary protective status for Venezuelans. Hundreds of thousands of people who had legal protections that may now face deportation. We've seen this with the Haitians. We've seen this with who's the other group of people there? They're black, a group of black people. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's a bunch of groups that Trump has won in the courts already to be able to deport people. And now the Venezuelans are next. He even revoked the visa of Maduro. Trump is not playing games. If he's revoking world leaders' visas, he's going to revoke everybody else's ability to stay here under temporary protection status. So some facts and context for this for you. The Supreme Court in a 6-3 decision allowed Trump and his administration to terminate TPS protections for over 300,000 Venezuelans. Yeah. While they fight back, they're still got to go. You can fight in your country back here. It's pretty brilliant, actually. And I don't think the Supreme Court's going to stop ruling in Trump's favor to get these people out of our country. Temporary protection status isn't for these people to come here and live 15, 20, 30, 40 years. This, hey, when your country's safe, go back. Whether it's due to terrorism, whether it's due to a authoritarian government, whether it's due to war, whether it's due to feast, famine, storms, you got to go. That's why Haiti was fixed and back to normal, and these people were here for like 15 years. You got to go. This goes on to reverse the lower court's ruling by Judge Edward Chin that had blocked the termination status that Trump was trying to seek in the first place. The lower courts keep losing. They keep losing every time they make it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court actually hears it out in full. The lower courts lose. The inferior courts lose. So the temporary protection status is a humanitarian program granted when a home country, like I was stating earlier, is under war, disaster, or chaos of some sort. America is not a hotel. You don't get to come and stay here as long as you want. You got to go eventually. Too bad, so sad. You got to go. No other country would just let us stay there and suck off the teat of that said country. We would have to go as well. Temporary means temporary. You can't turn TPS into a backdoor to a permanent path. And that's what the left and the Democrats and the socialists and whatever ideologies these people have been doing. The law and the original design of TPS is not to intend as a permanent residency. The conditions for Venezuela have all been quelled. So these people need to go back. They need to go back. Let's stop playing these games, because when you play these games, people find these pathways here, and some of them aren't good people. A lot of people scream fairness, fairness, fairness. Life's not fair. At least that's what my parents told me. My teachers told me. Some ex-employers told me. Life's not fair. So if life's not fair for me, a natural born citizen of the United States of America, a North Carolinian, my nation state of North Carolina, it shouldn't be fair for someone that doesn't live here, wasn't born here, doesn't contribute here. Because most of these people were sending every bit they could back to Venezuela, just like almost all of these people do. The Supreme Court's decision allows the revocation process to move forward. It doesn't guarantee the outcome, but Trump is going to do what Trump does. He already got like 900,000 people on TPS out already. What's another 300,000? What's another 300,000? Another good thing Trump has done is this. Democrats for the people, right? Right? Well, when Congress can't do its job, real people suffer. And right now, the government shut down. Is shutting down programs like WIC. Women, Infants, and Children is what WIC stands for. And these people are not being able to provide for their kids that actually qualify for the program. But the Trump administration says it will use tariff revenue to keep afloat until the government opens again. And this sounds like a drama, really. But let's pull back the curtain and take a little deeper look into it. So, some context for you with this and some facts. The government shutdown took effect on October 1st, 2025, because of Congress failing to pass funding. Now, we're going to go ahead and hit the home run on this one right here out the gate and stop playing with it. It was nothing to do with the Republicans. Okay, Buki? Nothing. The same crap they passed under Biden and his administration was the same crap they were trying to pass now under Trump's administration. The House passed this back, I think, on the 9th of September or 16th of September, somewhere around there. And the Senate has shot it down every single time. Every single time. This thing has been revisited like 11 total times. And the Senate has shut it down every single time. Who in the Senate has shut it down? The Democrats. 2 of which I got to say and give bravo. 2 of them actually voted in favor of it. The last vote for this that caused the shutdown was 45 to 55. There's 53 Republicans in the Senate. That's a majority, slim majority, but a majority nonetheless. There's 53 of them. The vote was 55 to 45, meaning that 2 Democrats voted in favor of it. Where were the other 5? All you needed was 7. You couldn't even manage that. However, back to the story, WIC is granted funding for nutrition, the nutrition program, to make sure that babies and recovering mothers can eat up to certain ages. Depending on the state, is different per state. There's state WIC and federal WIC, and it all goes in to help out. It gives them really nutritious food like vegetables, cheeses, milk, eggs. Everything that you would essentially need. Now these people aren't getting any of that. But the White House says it'll tap tariff revenue, especially from Section 232 tariffs, in the tariffs, to keep WIC going while the shutdown drags on. If the Democrats really care about people, and I need you to look me right in my eyes when I say this, if the Democrats really cared about people like they say they did, they wouldn't do this. People are suffering because of you, but the Democrat Party is always the party of the people, right? Wrong. And while I'm on the soapbox, I like soapboxes, they're nice. Every day you keep the government shut allows Trump and his administration to pass things and make real change in this country. So if you're going to not like what Trump is doing, maybe you should open the government back up and actually pass some things. There's a lot of things that are on the table that need to be voted on that actually benefit the people, but you're being impetuous children, angry children, frustrated children. This is the first time ever that, to my knowledge, that in a government shutdown, only one side is wanting to negotiate. Every other time it's been both sides wanting something, and they come to a common ground area, and then they open the government back up. Not so this time around. Now it's only one side begging for scraps. Oof. Only one side begging for scraps. And you know what that means? The other side has everything they want. So, Democrats, I'm talking to the voters, not the people in office, Democrats. Maybe you should speak to your representatives and tell them to get off their butts and do something, because you don't like Trump, right? They don't like Trump, right? You don't like what Trump is doing. Well, the Democrats are allowing him to do whatever he wants. I need you to know that. And I don't take my word for it. Look it up. Look it up. Read. And read with comprehension and context, not reading with feelings and lunacy like you normally do. Read. And you're going to find out that it's the Democrats' fault why all this is happening, why people are suffering, and why babies can't have food, and mamas can't recover properly because they don't have food. Yeah. Don't put your trust in the government. If the government comes and says we're here to help, run. They're not here to help. You can't trust the government, but you know who you can trust? You can trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. That's Proverbs 3:5-6. Guys, as always, I appreciate you for navigating this forest with me. I hope to see you next time, and maybe we can chop down some more trees and get some more truth out there. Have a good one.